After uncovering my wife's secret plans, I confronted her and set my own plan for revenge into motion. My name is Jerry Adams, and until recently, I was living a content, predictable life. Betsy, my wife of almost years, and I are both our daughter, Amy, has been married for 3 years to a good man, Jim, and they're about to welcome their first child. Here's a bit of backstory. Betsy and I met in college and got along so well that we married a year and a half after dating seriously. Amy came into our lives 2 years later and has been a wonderful daughter. Betsy has taught for years, and I work in finance for a large company, managing expenses and compliance. This story begins one summer evening when Betsy was on a break from work. She meets with her close friends for dinner about once a month, either at someone's home or occasionally at a bar. These gatherings have been routine since Amy moved out, and I've never questioned them. Betsy doesn't stay out late or drink excessively, so I had no reason to doubt anything. We'd even started going on weekly date nights again, sometimes alone, sometimes with other couples. I thought our relationship was in a good place. That night, I came home after grabbing dinner with my friend, Harold. Betsy and her friends were still there, laughing loudly. I walked up to the house and entered quietly, curious about the ongoing conversation. From just outside the room, I overheard them sharing shockingly personal details about their husbands, laughing about things I never expected. First, Stephanie, one of Betsy's closest friends, made fun of her husband Sam, calling him Minuteman. They laughed, and it caught me off guard, as Sam seemed like a decent guy. Then, Maggie mentioned her husband Harold, my friend, commenting on his size, and again, everyone laughed at his expense. I felt sorry for Harold and began feeling uneasy, listening to how each woman picked apart her husband. Then came Betsy's turn. She started with, "We're all married to older men, and sometimes they can be unpleasant." She chuckled, adding, "Jerry likes to snuggle up at night, and let's just say he doesn't know how unappealing that is." Her friend Stephanie jumped in, joking we should give him a nickname too. Betsy laughed and suggested Boner Boy, which was met with laughter. I felt humiliated and hurt. Was this really how Betsy felt? And had she shared this with her friends all along? My heart sank, and I was furious, but I stayed quiet to hear more. Stephanie then suggested they go out to a new club and maybe let younger men flirt with them if their husbands were so disappointing. I stood there, realizing I needed to investigate further. Was Betsy actually engaging with other men? Or was it just talk? Either way, this felt like a betrayal. I drove around afterward, angry and unsure of my next steps. Later, when I returned home, Betsy was cleaning up, cheerful as ever, completely unaware I had overheard her conversation. I couldn't confront her just yet. I needed time to process and plan. Over the next few days, I observed Betsy's behavior, looking for any further signs. I considered telling the husbands, or even confronting Betsy in front of her friends next time they went out. The betrayal stung deeply, but I kept my composure, quietly setting my own plan in motion. That Saturday, I decided to go for a long bike ride, hoping to clear my mind. When I got back, Betsy was out shopping with Amy, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, so I spent the rest of the day going through her emails and phone, desperately searching for any evidence to confirm my growing suspicions. It hurt, but I couldn't stop myself. I had to know the truth. When Betsy came home that evening, her excitement about her day with Amy only made things worse. She tried to engage with me, sensing my distance, but I deflected, pretending work was the cause of my mood. Deep down, I knew I'd eventually have to confront her, but it would be on my terms. That's when the idea for revenge started to form. Jerry had been feeling uneasy for a while, especially after noticing how close Betsy and her friends had become. "Do you ever dance that close to them when they ask?" he asked one evening, trying to gauge her reactions. Betsy laughed it off, dismissing the question. "Jerry, you know them. None of the ladies would ever do anything inappropriate. You've met them all." Jerry mulled it over, then suggested, "Maybe we should have a cookout. Invite them and their husbands over." Betsy shrugged. "They probably have summer plans. It's a busy time. When's the next girls' night?" he asked, pressing further. Betsy hesitated before answering. "Actually, we're going to Stephanie's lake house next weekend. Just the wives' girl time." Jerry's curiosity piqued. "When were you going to tell me?" Betsy quickly added, I meant to mention it last night. We're leaving Friday morning and coming back Monday night. Jerry tried not to show his disappointment. You'll miss the block party and all the activities. I'll make it up to you. She reassured him, not sensing the growing unease in his voice. Left alone in his office, Jerry couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Betsy never went away like this, especially not after some of the things her friends had said. His anxiety only grew. Later that day, when Betsy was in the shower, Jerry grabbed her phone, hoping to find something that would explain it all. But her phone was locked, something she had never done before. Determined, he took it to work and enlisted Dan for me to help him unlock it. What he found sent a chill down his spine. Text messages between Betsy and her friends, discussing their weekend plans. Stephanie appeared to be orchestrating everything, with Teresa as the event planner. Then, Jerry saw that Stephanie had sent a text that read, if no one finds out, no harm done. His stomach twisted as he read further, seeing how excited Betsy was about the weekend. It didn't take long for him to realize he wasn't just suspicious, he was being deceived. When he got home, Betsy noticed her phone was missing. Did you take my phone, Jerry? She asked, her voice tense. Yes, he replied, not backing down. You've been hiding things lately. Why the secrecy? It's private, Jerry, she snapped. You're invading my privacy. The next day, Jerry reached out to their daughter, Amy, hoping for answers. Amy didn't know much, but she confirmed that her mom seemed excited about the trip. Still, Jerry couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, especially after reading a text from Stephanie referring to him as Boner Boy and warning Betsy to keep him in line. Determined to find out more, Jerry uncovered that Teresa had hired a male dancer for a recent bachelorette party. He suspected they were planning something similar for this weekend. The more he learned, the angrier he became. Jerry called the other husbands Harold, Ollie, and Sam and laid out his plan. They were all on edge, concerned about their wife's strange behavior. Together, they decided to drive to Stephanie's cabin on Saturday morning and see for themselves what was going on. On Friday morning, Betsy was busy packing, eager for her girls' weekend. Jerry had left her a note, pretending to accept her decision, but hinting at his disappointment. When Betsy texted Stephanie, panicking about Jerry's strange behavior, Stephanie quickly reassured her, urging her not to worry. The wives set off, completely unaware of the husband's plan to follow them. Jerry and the others, now committed to finding the truth, set out for the cabin. The tension was palpable as the husbands regrouped that afternoon. Determined to uncover the truth, they ignored their wives' calls and texts, planning to confront them when the time was right. The showdown was set for 1:00. They would arrive early, staying out of sight until they were ready to reveal what they had learned. That night, Jerry received a series of texts from Betsy, at first worried, then angry, accusing him of ruining her weekend. He eventually managed to get some sleep. In the morning, he called Amy, who told him that Betsy had tried to seem concerned about him. But when Amy mentioned the possibility of the husbands getting together, Betsy quickly hung up. Jerry checked their bank account and saw a $1 withdrawal for Betsy's trip. The pieces were falling into place. The other husbands had similar withdrawals. They were all furious, feeling disrespected. Jerry urged them to channel their anger for now. They needed to confront their wives together. As they drove toward the cabin, Jerry's thoughts raced. Teresa had been keeping him updated with some shocking news. Stephanie had been planning to hire a dancer for the weekend. Stephanie was thrilled by the idea. And now Jerry couldn't believe Betsy was caught up in it all. Arriving at the cabin, the husbands parked down the road and quietly walked up. When Sam opened the door, the wives froze, clearly caught off guard. Sam grinned and introduced himself as Minuteman, mocking how they had belittled their husbands earlier. Jerry took control, gesturing for the wives to sit down. Betsy, clearly shaken, couldn't hide her discomfort. Jerry didn't hold back. He expressed the hurt he felt, and the other men followed, confronting their wives with their feelings of betrayal. Finally, Jerry turned to Betsy. "You've crossed the line," he said, his voice cold. "Don't expect intimacy from me anymore. I don't know if our marriage can survive this." Afterward, they deflated Stephanie's tires, a final message of their anger. When they returned home, Betsy tried to apologize through calls, texts, and emails. She insisted it was all just a joke gone wrong, but Jerry ignored her, focusing on his daughter, Amy, who was just as disappointed in Betsy as he was. When Betsy returned, she tried to make amends, cooking a special dinner and asking to talk. She apologized, claiming the whole situation had spiraled out of control, blaming Stephanie for leading the charge. But Jerry couldn't shake his anger. He pressed her on her behavior at bars, and she tried to downplay it as girl talk. It was clear that something had broken between them. Betsy seemed genuinely remorseful, but Jerry wasn't sure if their marriage could ever truly recover. The trust had been shattered. "Am I really that awful?" Betsy asked, her voice shaking. "No," Jerry replied softly. "You're not awful. I took you for granted. I was wrong, but I think we need therapy." Betsy was surprised but agreed. She didn't seem fully on board, but she knew it was the right thing to do. Jerry offered to go with her if it made things easier, but she insisted on finding someone to help her first. 9 months later, all of us husbands agreed on one thing. We needed to shape up, so we started hitting the gym, motivating each other relentlessly. My fitness and energy improved. My daughter even started calling me a hunk. At my age, I smiled to myself. As for where things stand now, 2 marriages are in therapy. One is nearly over. Stephanie and Sam are almost divorced. Stephanie moved out to live with her sister in another state. Most of us were actually relieved. Sam felt a bit sad but has started exploring dating again. Honestly, no one misses Stephanie. Erica and Ollie are in counseling, working on rebuilding their relationship after the intervention. Erica is focused on supporting Ollie, while he's become more assertive. It looks like they might succeed. Maggie and Harold are doing okay. Maggie was the only one skeptical about therapy, but she openly expresses her love for her husband and brags about his talents in the bedroom. Harold seems to have moved past the embarrassment. As for Betsy and me, we still share the same house, and she's still going to counseling. Technically, we're still married. My granddaughter, Brittany, has become the new joy in my life. Betsy seems genuinely remorseful sometimes, but it's hard to say for sure. Amy, our daughter, wants me to give her mother another chance. Betsy and I have started reconnecting intimately, but I crave passion. She insists she needs me, but only time will tell. I am starting to feel more confident. Some women at the gym have shown interest in me after hearing my story. We'll see where this goes. I serve in the National Guard while working a full-time job in a big industry, earning 6 figures. I'm physically fit and even built my own house on a small farm. I've been in a relationship with my soon-to-be ex for years, married for 2. Recently, I returned from a combat deployment, and we were planning to start a family. But when I came back after being away for 6 months, I discovered something shocking. She had an affair with the man she hired to fix our fence. They had unprotected sex multiple times, and she developed strong feelings for him. They shared experiences and emotions she never shared with me. She found the small-town cowboy she'd always dreamed of while I was just not that guy. She doesn't know I know everything, but I've seen the signs. She says she adjusted to my absence, but I think the real reason is that she's in love with him. She stays with me only because I provide for her while he's a younger, attractive cowboy who's married, has kids, and sleeps with clients. She's been making plans for our family, scheduling doctor appointments, and talking about having kids, completely oblivious to how shattered I am inside. I've kept it together, hiding behind the stoicism I learned in the military. I've talked to my best friend, a Catholic, about it. He thinks I should try to fix things, but I'm not sure I can. I've already set up meetings with 2 lawyers to start the divorce process. I don't think this relationship can be saved. She shows no remorse. I'm considering filing for divorce and kicking her out. Today, I had the courage to confide in my mom and closest friends. It was a tough conversation. I haven't confronted her yet, but I'm preparing for it. 2 days later, I met with the lawyers. I also hired a private investigator. The man she's been seeing has multiple aliases, a suspended license, and a criminal past. He's married with kids and lives just minutes away. Last night, I had a panic attack and woke up in tears while she slept beside me. I apologized, and she suggested my distress was from workout supplements or something I picked up overseas. Either she's manipulating me or she has no idea what's going on. I woke up at AM after working the night shift. The private investigator told me she had lunch with him at Cadoba while I was asleep. She claimed to be out shopping when she returned, but she blatantly lied to my face. I'm planning to confront her on her birthday. The day finally arrived. It was too nice a day for what was about to unfold. I woke early, feeling oddly calm. My decision was made. After a grueling workout, I took a deep breath and set my plan into motion. When she walked through the door, radiant from shopping and excited for her birthday, I handed her a beautifully wrapped box. Her eyes sparkled, and she eagerly tore it open. Her face fell when she saw the neatly folded divorce papers inside. The shock was written all over her face. I told her about the affair, the cowboy, and the lies. Each word felt like a blow. She collapsed into tears, pleading for forgiveness, but it was too late. Her phone started ringing. Her parents were calling to wish her a happy birthday, but I didn't hesitate. I told them the truth. I made it public. Her family, friends, and colleagues received emails with evidence of her infidelity. I was done protecting her reputation. Her sobs and apologies echoed through the room as she picked up call after call. It was the worst birthday of her life, a far cry from the celebration she expected. I opened the door to the porch, and there I had her things waiting. She wasn't welcome in my house anymore. She begged, but I didn't back down. I told her to get out. Days later, her family started gaslighting me, blaming me for everything. They ignored the fact that she cheated and slept with another man. They dismissed it as my emotional unavailability. She told the cowboy's wife it was all fabricated. Now, he and his wife are reconciling, and she's pregnant with his third child. Her family prioritizes her, not me. They side with her instead of helping us heal. She scoffed at the idea of therapy. She thinks she can manipulate me into staying, but I'm done. This morning, she signed the divorce papers and I filed them. We had a lengthy conversation. She promised to work on our marriage, but I didn't care. I'm moving on. Weeks have passed and her calls and texts have dwindled. Mutual friends say she's not doing well. She's miserable, alone, and regretful. She's searching for houses in Texas and trying to transfer with her company. The divorce is finalized. I kept the house, and she's moving to Texas, changing jobs. She still shows no remorse, and she never took responsibility for destroying our life together. Returning from deployment was hard, but returning to a broken marriage was even worse. The last few months have been the hardest of my life. Every story has two sides, but this one has shattered me. It broke me down to my core, but I found strength through my faith, the support of my friends, and the men and women I deployed with. Without them, I don't know where I would be. Now, it's time to start a new chapter with someone who genuinely wants to create a future together. I was with him from the age of we dated for years and got married after we were both settled. We had an amazing connection. Our personalities complemented each other perfectly. Being with him felt natural. I was deeply in love with him, but things changed when he started struggling with alcohol. I began noticing things weren't quite right, but every time I tried to bring it up, he would get incredibly drunk and ask for help, only to deny everything the next day and make me second-guess myself. This pattern continued for years until he finally became sober. I was proud of his recovery at first, but little did I know he had replaced one obsession with another. I did notice changes in him. He became easily irritated, often looked down, and always had dark circles under his eyes. He grew distant, and it felt like there was a growing emotional gap between us. He stopped initiating closeness and seemed mentally absent when we did engage. It concerned me, but I convinced myself that it was just a result of everything we had been through. Let me tell you about the incredibly tough 3 years before this. And he was diagnosed with cancer. He passed away as part of his treatment. He had to undergo surgery to remove one of his testicles. While he managed to cope with the physical changes, he never fully addressed the emotional toll it took on him. During this time, we also tried for a baby, but our efforts were unsuccessful. I'll never forget the moment I came home and had to tell him there was no heartbeat. The look in his eyes was the moment I realized I had lost him completely. He never recovered from that, and his depression worsened over time. We started infertility treatments, which were hard enough on their own, but I felt like I was going through it all alone. He was always lost in his computer, playing games and chatting on Discord. He seemed absent, and the more I tried to reach him, the more he pulled away. I couldn't understand it at the time, but after his death, it all began to make sense. I began to feel afraid of getting pregnant again, so my therapist suggested we pause trying. When I told him, he reacted angrily, saying he needed emotional closeness and that he was disappointed I couldn't meet his needs. He rarely expressed his feelings, so I appreciated his honesty. But when I tried to continue the conversation, he said he wasn't ready to talk. The next day, he seemed very anxious. He told me he needed to confess something, but struggled to say it. Finally, he admitted, "I think I have an obsession with X movies." His distress didn't seem to match the significance of it, and I couldn't understand why it was such a big deal to him. He said he felt like he was losing control and was afraid, but I still didn't get it. After this, he was exhausted and just wanted dinner. The next morning, as I was getting ready for work, he woke up, smiled sleepily, and said, "I love you." We kissed, and I playfully tousled his hair before leaving. I had no idea those would be our last words. At PM, he stopped answering my texts and calls. When I came home, I found the back door open and the house eerily quiet. I went outside and found him in the garage, using a rope. His shorts were down and his phone lay nearby, its screen shattered. It was clear he had died from autoerotic asphyxiation. I never imagined he'd put himself in such danger. That was when I learned about his obsession with closeness. As my world crumbled, I started putting the puzzle pieces together. I moved back in with my parents feeling hollow. I needed to understand why he would put himself at such risk, but I couldn't unlock his phone. However, I could access his Google history, and it was disturbingly clean. There was no search history, location history was turned off, and he never shared his phone password with me. My search led me to discover that he had a VPN subscription, made a dollar transaction on Cash App to a woman, and was logged into an X-movie site. His profile there was linked to a Yahoo email address I didn't recognize. When I tried the only password I knew, it worked. My heart raced as I opened his inbox, finding messages from websites I didn't know. What devastated me most was what I found in the emails posts dating back to our college days where he had complained about me, my lack of skill and intimacy, and how I wasn't exciting enough in bed. After years of trying my best to meet his needs, seeing these posts made me realize he never truly valued me. Some posts even praised me in every way except for our emotional connection, revealing that he had been seeking other outlets for his need for closeness, all while staying in the relationship. I found countless messages on Discord, Skype, Facebook Messenger, and Telegram. In one, he role-played a scenario where he pretended to forget about me, and as the situation unfolded, the characters expressed love for each other and even discussed moving across the country together. I also found texts from when we were in college, with him texting an older woman while I slept next to him. And while we were married, he had an online affair with a college student. The sheer volume of infidelity was overwhelming. I shared my discovery with his mother, which felt strange, but I trusted her. Her reaction was unsettling. She fell silent, then slowly revealed something that shook me. She said she thought he had stopped after college, but admitted that he had confessed to her during our first year of college that he had cheated. He had turned to closeness as comfort when he felt lonely and homesick. He met someone and gave him a BJ, but broke down afterward and ran away, eventually seeking counseling. She believed that was the end of it, but it wasn't. He had continued to cheat on and off for the rest of our relationship. His last messages were role-play scenarios on Kick. I feel like I lost him twice, first when he passed away, and then again when I discovered the truth about his betrayal. It's a painful and confusing experience, realizing that everything I thought was true was a lie. He was struggling with his obsession, yet he still cheated on me throughout our entire relationship. I am both a grieving widow and a betrayed spouse. I still love him, but the pain of his betrayal cuts deep. It's a constant internal conflict, and I often wonder how to reconcile betrayal from the person I trusted most when I can never have a conversation with him again.